more credit news. Subscribe and stay tuned just in case it can benefit you. So the CFPB takes action to address illegal debt collection practices by the National Collegiate Student Loans Trust. The trust will pay $2.25 million in compensation to harmed student borrowers. This is what you got to understand. A lot of times there are some fair or unfair debt collection practices, and as a result, there are lawsuits that can take place due to the fact that a lot of times they do things unlawfully. In this case, it's dealing with student loans. This may not be the specific student loan trust that benefits you, but just understand that this takes place. This is why it's so important to make sure that you're using laws and codes and different statutes in order to use that to your advantage to get things deleted and enhance your credit score. Once you understand that there are unlawful behaviors taking place, now you can leverage those laws and court cases to your advantage, as we teach and as we do for others as well. Be sure you check out the information below just to see if you can benefit from anything that we have, whether it's the free credit class or you invest in any of our services or products. That being said, let's dive in deep. So Washington, D.C., the CFPB basically took action to resolve its case against the National Collegiate Student Loan Trust for unlawfully filing defective debt collection lawsuits to collect on private student loan debt. The CFPB and the trust filed a proposed stipulated judgment that, if entered by the court, will require the trust to pay $2.25 million and redress the student borrowers who were harmed. Today's action follows a March 24 ruling by the U.S. Court in Appeals of the Third Circuit that the trusts are covered persons under the Consumer Financial Protection Act, which is the act that protects consumers, obviously. The National Collegiate Student Loan Trust had previously claimed that as trusts, they were not covered under the CFPA. In December, the Supreme Court declined to hear trust appeal, leaving Third Circuit decision in place. So during the lead up to the financial crisis, there was a boom in subprime style student lending. Student lenders work with investment bankers to turn student loans into securities. The National Collegiate Student Loan Trusts are an example of this. The trusts are a group of 15 securitization trusts organized under Delaware law that acquire, pool, and securitize student loans, which they then service. In 2017, the CFPB filed a lawsuit alleging that the National Collegiate Student Loans Trust, among other things, brought improper debt collection lawsuits. Specifically, the CFPB alleges that the National Collegiate Student Loan Trust subservices acting on behalf of the trust. So here are some of the details. They sued customers for debts the trust could not prove were owned. Violation. The trust unlawfully filed thousands of cases, although they did not have or could not find the documentation necessary to prove either that they owned the loans or that the consumer owed the debt. So that's a double violation. For one, they couldn't prove that they owned the loans. Like, you usually have to have some type of assignment that proves that you're able to even collect on this debt. Otherwise, that's unfair debt collection practice, unlawful. And they couldn't even prove that the consumer owed the debt. So that's a whole nother thing, all in one, which also contributed to the unlawful behavior that was taking place. They filed false and misleading affidavits. In numerous instances, affiants claimed personal knowledge of the student loan debt they did not have. In some cases, the trust misrepresented that affidavits were properly notarized when they were in fact not. Attempted to collect after the statute of limitation expired. So it's a statute of limitation, and it's based on what type of debt it is, as well as what state you're in. Each state has different laws that govern the statute of limitation. So that's what they're referring to here. Basically, it says that after a certain amount of years, a person or entity cannot collect on that debt. So they were attempting to collect after the statute of limitations. So that's another violation. The trust unlawfully misrepresented that they had a right to collect time-barred debts after the statutes of limitation had expired. The CFPB also alleges that the National Collegiate Student Loan Trust engaged in unfair practices by filing collection lawsuits without the intent or ability to prove the claims if contested. So the enforcement action, this is where, the rubber meets the road and what led to the amount that they owe. Under the Consumer Financial Protection Act, the CFPB has the authority to take action against institutions violating consumer financial protection laws, including by engaging in unfair, deceptive, or abusive acts or practices. The CFPB's order, if entered by the court, requires National Collegiate Student Loan Trust to, number one, pay $2.25 $1.25 million redress to consumers. The funds will be paid to the CFPB for the purpose of providing relief to borrowers who were harmed. They usually put it to some type of escrow account or relief fund and issue it if a person was harmed fit this particular court case. And number 2, stop collecting on certain debts covered by the lawsuit. So the trust must take steps to end certain pending debt collection lawsuits involving time barred debt or where necessary documentation cannot be located, and to otherwise cease debt collection activities related to debt identified in those lawsuits. So these are some things that I want you to just kind of look at, because a lot of times people wonder how can they take advantage of this. Well, this may or may not fit your situation. So this is just one instance. There are several other scenarios similar to this, but if this is something that you were a victim of, depending on where you are, what you can do is submit complaints about financial products and services by visiting the CFPB's website, consumerfinance.gov, that's that, or by calling their number, 855-411-CFPB. So that being said, this is something that you can take advantage of, but more importantly, understand that pressure is being applied. The CFPB protects the consumers in many ways, and they're filing lawsuits and doing different things, and nobody is really exempt from this. Experian has recently been sued. Equifax has been ordered to pay certain things, and these companies have been doing things unlawfully, like keeping information on your report and not properly going through an investigation. So now's a great time to restore your credit, take it to the next level, whether you're doing it yourself or you decide to hire some help. Either way, we can help you, but definitely keep your eyes open and understand that sometimes your score may be less than ideal, not because of just a mistake of yours, but because of a mistake of theirs. And there's no reason for you to be overcharged in interest or overpay for things just because your score is less than it should be, when in many cases it could be an error or unlawful investigation behaviors. That being said, check out any link that I have available to see if you can benefit from us helping you get more educated about credit or helping you get access to our services, whether DIY or done for you. Mr. Smith signing out. Salute.